What's really going on in Australia?
Lurking in waters off Sydney, an unusual sight. 3 Chinese military ships travelling further south than they ever have before.
We are aware of this task group. We are monitoring this task group very closely. It is, as I understand it, operating in international waters.
Australia's Defence Department was watching closely, announcing on February 13 the flotilla was under observation.
Both naval and air force assets have been deployed to make sure that we are monitoring exactly what is occurring here.
No, you weren't. We're going to get to that later on.
For more than a week, the warships quietly made their way down Australia's east coast without incident until February 21, when their silent sail south ended with a bang. About 9:30 in the morning, the ships let loose, carrying out a live fire exercise in the Tasman Sea, 300 nautical miles off the Australian coast. But despite the Defence Force supposedly monitoring them, Australia had no idea the ships had opened fire. Instead, it was the pilot of a commercial...
They had no idea because they had no idea they were there. They've been doing this for years. They've been coming into off the coast of Australia for years. Okay, and they've also launched ICBMs over, like literally launched ICBMs over the top of Brisbane, and then it's flown over the top of Sydney and then over the top of Melbourne. I have covered this. I'm not sure if you guys, you should be following like accurate people, not the mainstream media. You should be following me. But I covered it. I covered all this stuff.
passenger jet who first sounded the alarm. At 9:58 a.m, the pilot of Virgin Flight 161 from Sydney to Queenstown heard a warning from the warship.
This is so hilarious. You've got a commercial flight, people just flying to go on holidays or flying to go meet family somewhere, and the pilot of a commercial plane has to tell the Australian Navy or the Australian Air Force or whatever's running the military these days, because they're probably over in the Middle East because that's where their interests are, right? Not protecting actually Australia. Australia's just a vassal state to fund the people in the Middle East. People like myself that go, hey, we need to like have a radar. Oh no, you can't have a radar. Israel needs a better radar. Okay, we'll give them money instead of you.
Over the radio about the live fire exercises. The Virgin pilot immediately relayed the information to Aviation Authority Air Services Australia, which issued an alert to all planes in the area.
The only way you knew about this was because a Virgin pilot heard about it.
Well, I know, okay, look, there's a female senator questioning the military. The senator, this female senator shouldn't be there. It should be a real Aussie man, right? And that man would be going, okay, well, how do we protect Australia? Well, no, what they do is they put useless women in there who divert funds to the Middle East or send our money to Mother England, which is just squandering it on all of their immigrants, or we just send it to the United States. That is, this, there's a classic saying going around at the moment when you think about Ukraine. It's like being America's enemy is, it's life-threatening, but it's not terminal. Being America's friend is, certain death. And all of our politicians are controlled by the United States and their buddies over in Israel.
And called in.
20 minutes later, an Emirates flight was also warned by the warships, while a Qantas plane flying some minutes behind diverts its path. Dozens of other planes that day also avoid the area.
So, you're ahead of defence on this?
I wouldn't say we were ahead. We became aware of the situation because
Alarmingly, the Australian Defence Force knew nothing until 30 minutes after the Chinese ships began their live fire exercise, when Air Services Australia raised the alarm. A failure slammed from all sides.
Is it the case that
this guy here, What is he doing there? Yeah, anything to do with China, this guy's there. I remember seeing this guy years ago before, he came along after experts like myself were talking about China and the threat, etc. And then he would turn up at Falun Gong meetings, get all political. I remember seeing him at, like, what was it? It was like, it wasn't just Falun Gong, it was like, we had influence campaigns in the universities by, Chinese institutes. We had protests. We had problems with Hong Kong. Any sort of meeting, protest, whatever that I was at. I was at all of them and covered all of them. This guy would turn up. He's going bald. He's looking a little bit old, but he would turn up and in a flashy suit. I'm like, whoa, gee, look at that. That's a CIA agent if I've ever seen one. I don't know who he is. Well, I do know who he is, but I don't know what he is. Let's just put it that way.
Defence was only notified via Virgin and Air Services Australia 28 minutes after the firing window commenced.
Yes, the notification was that call that it made from when the firing window opened, and that, in our view, is inadequate notification.
That's not inadequate, it's after it started.
It was extraordinary that the Prime Minister and...
Do you see how the Admiral and the Navy is very submissive to the politicians? And I get it. They're supposed to take orders from the politician. I get it. But you notice how they're kind of weak. They're not like standing there like, yeah, well, we have a problem with this and this and that. Like they're not. They are fully aware that they're underfunded, undersupplied, undermanned. Everything's under because all of the surplus, all of the real cash is going to the Middle East. It's going to funding campaigns that have nothing to do with Australia's actual sovereignty. And that our entire military is just like it's something that would not function without the United States. And it's designed that way because we are designed as a sacrifice, the same as Ukraine was, but not to that extent because they need our resources to extract our cash.
Defence Minister told us they'd put in place an unprecedented surveillance operation around these three warships, and then to have the head of our military, Admiral Johnson, tell the Parliament, under oath I might add, that he didn't know whether live firing had happened on the Friday. It's extraordinary to me to have our military say they're doing unprecedented monitoring, but not be able to know if warships fired their weapons or not. That seems to be the lowest bar of capability we should expect.
Let me explain. Let me explain what's really been going on. So these ships, they travelled. All three ships. They travelled down through the middle of Australia and New Zealand, and then they circumnavigated Australia. They went all the way down to Tasmania. They had a little bit of a look. Maybe stopped in for a beer. They went to South Australia. And then they went past Perth. People also say that the reason why they went past Perth was because the United States had an important visitor there from the military or whatever in Perth. And then they went on their merry way up Western Australia, and then they went back home to China. Okay? Now let me explain what's really going on here. These ships have been doing this the entire time. Okay, the Australian military never knew. So for the last decade, since Australia has started talking tough on China, they first started sending submarines. So legit, like you're at Tasmania, there's a Chinese submarine with nuclear weapons on board off the coast of Tasmania, and you're like, is that a whale? The Australian military is like, oh, it must be a whale. The Australian Navy, they're like, well, we don't need any money for radar. We don't need to be, building up our defenses. Our biggest problem is in the Middle East, because Israel got attacked. We need to send them more money and more troops. We need to focus on being an elephant a land power, when really we should be building up our navy like nothing else. We should have nuclear power to defend ourselves, but no, we need to worry about the green power and solar and all this other BS. So what I'm trying to explain to you guys is China's been doing this all along. I have spoken to people in the Navy, by the way, people who would actually tell me what's going on, and they have been on missions, on islands, on sovereign nations, like just like islands like Vanuatu, Samoa, Fiji, was it Vanuatu, Samoa, whatever, Tonga, any of the Polynesian islands, Papua New Guinea as well. Papua New Guinea, that's another one. And they would be on a mission, and then out of nowhere, without any warning, a Chinese surveillance ship, like an advanced ship, would turn up, and they're like, "What is that doing there?" And then they'll radio back to Australian headquarters, and the Australian headquarters will say, "Oh, don't do anything. Don't move. Don't move towards them. Don't signal them. Don't say anything. Nothing." And then guess what happens? The Australian, the Chinese surveillance ship will then use these high-tech weapons on the Australian military ship. And what would happen is things will shut down. Like actual things would shut down. Like radio systems will shut down. All of the phones on every single phone that is mobile phone that is on will start ringing. And the radar will shut down. Everything will shut down. Like everything will just like go nuts for a bit. And they knew it was the Chinese ship doing it to them, going, "Look, we got capabilities. We got more shit than you do, motherfucker." And this was a decade ago, guys. Well, not a decade ago. It was like 7 years ago. So I'd already be been talking geopolitics, and that's how I started to get connections. So China's had these capabilities a long time. And if you've noticed, I was extremely volatile in some of my videos back then. That's because we needed to do something. Now I'm a little bit more chill. Why? Because it's too late. It's too late. And that's why you guys should join the members section, because we're talking about ways that you can make money, get your money out of Australia. I also recommend that you sign up to do some consultations with me, because Australia's finished. Australia's finished, okay? You are finished. And if you don't start making some smart moves now, you're going to suffer the consequences.
Standard international practice is to give 24 to 48 hours notice of any live fire exercise, but China gave Australia and New Zealand none. However, Papua New Guinea was briefed weeks prior.
The fact that China's ambassador to PNG in the South Pacific has their office in Canberra, and yet the Chinese ambassador didn't pick up the phone to make a local call to Foreign Affairs or Defence or the Foreign Minister or the Defence Minister, that tells you it was a willful decision to not give Australia advance warning. That's a deliberate act.
China says Australia has hyped up its concerns, claiming it issued repeated safety notices well in advance. And while it may have only been a drill, the danger was still very real.
Chinese were using weapons that had a range up to 50,000 feet in altitude, so that could have placed.
Yeah, this guy looks like he knows what he's talking about. Yeah, I'm going with this guy in the. Is he on like an island in like Hawaii or some shit? Is he even Australian? Who knows? We do know ASPI just is a way of funneling Australian cash into useless military that we don't even need. While Australians like myself were like, hang on, shouldn't we be buying something else? Like, we need actual capabilities. I'm going to explain to you a little bit more in depth a little bit later on what's been going on.
Aircraft at risk.
What we're hearing is how Now, this was all perfectly safe, and the only problem was they didn't give enough advance warning, but there was real danger of a civilian airliner being shot down, because live fire drills can involve not just naval gunfire, but firing high-altitude surface-to-air missiles. So the risk was real. If an airliner had been shot down, it wouldn't have been one death, it would have been everybody on board.
While the
God, we've turned into a bunch of fucking pussies. That's the reality of the world. Like, we're getting white men are being genocided in Australia. Let's not talk about that. Let's turn. This is a we're the United States is at war with China. The United States is causing a lot of harm to China, and then China sends some warships down here. Let me explain. I'll explain in a little bit why they had the live fire drills and what this whole ordeal was about, and I'll explain it in simplistic terms in a bit.
government vowed to seek answers.
We do have concerns about the transparency associated with this and the notice, and I certainly will be having a discussion with Foreign Minister Wang about that.
I don't think we have a satisfactory answer from China as to the question of the notice.
The ship's location means China technically broke no rules.
They are in international waters. They are completely within the bounds of international law.
Normally, navies conduct live fire drills on designated training ranges in chunks of water, or in parts of the world's oceans where they aren't putting at risk civilian airliners flying overhead or civilian ships blundering into the area. And normally, navies give advance notice. The Chinese did none of those things.
Okay. Let me just explain what went on. China's been sending submarines and ships, and just they would send submarines. Probably 20 years ago, they were probably sending submarines into Australian waters just to see just to test our capabilities. Maybe 20 years ago. China has a lot of submarines, a lot of very good submarines too, and they're getting more advanced every day. China's been doing that for years. So many years they've been sending these submarines down into our waters. And more recently, they've been sending ships, big ships, off the coast of Sydney, off the coast of Melbourne, off the coast of Perth, just to see if we would even notice that they were there, and we didn't notice them at all. That's our capabilities, guys. And so, and I can't prove this, but I'm 100% certain it's been happening. They've been doing it forever. They even sent an ICBM over the top of Sydney CBD. CBD of Sydney had an ICBM from China fly over the top of us. Okay, just we're a sitting duck on everywhere. Okay, so let me explain why they didn't let us know. They didn't let us know because we are supposed to know already. This is the hilarious part here. We are supposed to know whenever a foreign ship enters anywhere near our waters. If you put an Australian ship anywhere near off the coast of China, they know. They're fully aware because it's a male-dominated, logical, rational country. This is why China's winning, and feminized countries like Australia that squeeze the men, like the men in the last video that I made, die. We die. And in Australia's case, we are dying because the United States is using us as a proxy. We are set to be not a Ukraine, but every country that is aligned with the United States is going to be used as a weapon against China, especially if you're nearby. So just so you know, China's been doing this forever. I'm going to explain a little bit more a little bit later on.
Came just days after another alarming incident. On February 11, an RAF Poseidon jet was conducting routine surveillance of the South China Sea when it was challenged by two Chinese J-16 jets.
Okay, so an Australian jet was in the South China Sea, hundreds of kilometers from China, and China knew that you were there? Wow, so they have capabilities to know when we go into their region of the world, but we don't have the ability to know when they come into our area of the world. We have no idea. They can literally put ships off the coast of Australia. We have no idea. Come on, guys. Look, the media is literally telling you how incompetent the Navy is. And I'm trying to point out to you that there's a few reasons why. Too much women control. All women need to lose their rights immediately. It needs to be handed over to white men like myself. We need a full extraction of all foreign agents from the entire government, from the bottom to the top. And three, we need to stop, because of that, we need to stop sending money to foreign nations to fund their wars, instead of like actually building up our own defenses, so we know when China has a ship. China literally has ships off the coast. Who knows, they might have even got a submarine, like as a joke. Like, this is how incompetent we are. They probably got a submarine to sail into Sydney Harbour, under the harbour bridge. And they're like, ha ha ha, those stupid Australians, so stupid. And they're talking shit. It's like, they've been doing it for years. That's how incompetent we have been. All these things need to change. But look, China knows when we're in their region, but we don't know when China's in our region. That's what this news report's saying.
One of them releasing flares just 30 metres away from the Australian plane.
The proximity of the Chinese Air Force plane was so close that there's no way you could have maintained control over those flares.
There were a dozen Air Force personnel on board, but thankfully no one was injured.
There was danger, and had those flares hit the P-8, there was the potential for significant damage to our aircraft.
Had those flares gone into the intake of that Poseidon, we could have lost the aircraft and the crew. But
Oh no, the tough military could have got hurt by some flary flares. Oh no, it's a military aircraft. This like, just so you guys are aware of how incompetent we are, our military aircraft could have been taken down by a few flares. Our military aircraft that we're sending into the South China Sea as an offensive military, like it was an actual military campaign, Australian ship, Australian plane, military plane. It's not a Qantas air flight to Bali, right? It was probably flown by a bunch of women that freaked out because a few flares flew off the front of the... we have fallen so hard since the diggers. We're run by a bunch of pussies. This is a military aircraft that was flying into enemy territory. That enemy noticed that we were in their territory. One, which we don't have the capabilities of. Two, they sent aircraft to go and follow it, because it's in a region that they think that they control, right? And three, they let off a few flares. Flares. Oh no, flares hurt our big, powerful military. It's like, just understand what we're looking at here. Incompetence, weakness, pathetic. Like, the one thing that the media doesn't quite understand is that when it comes to geopolitics, you cannot play the victim. You cannot just play the victim and play weak. Objectively, we are weak and pathetic. That's what we're looking at here. China sends ships into our region. We don't even know they're there. It's like, they know that they could literally enter our waters and do whatever they want to us. That's what the warning was. The other warning is we send any sort of ship, any sort of plane into their region, they're going to spot us early. They're going to send fighter jets to go and harass us early, which it doesn't matter what is right and what is wrong and what is law. This is geopolitics. You either have the capability or you don't. Might is right. And this is why we have so much problems in Australia. We're run by women. These women use the power to turn Australia into a dictatorship to squash Australian men. And it's used by the United States, giving stupid women power. And these stupid women destroy the country and make us weak, which means that if we have any sort of conflict with any nation, if we went to war with Indonesia tomorrow, they would fuck us up with both hands tied behind their back, because it's a male-dominated country. Their women fuck around, they find out. In Australia, women fuck around, the country comes in and squashes us and makes us weaker. The men, like, and when I get angry here and I like chuck a tantrum, people are like, oh, he's so emotional. Oh, he's so angry. I can't follow him anymore. I'd rather follow something that is funny. Yeah, okay. Well, the country's dying. The people are weak. This is what's happening in Australia right now. A few flary flares hurt our big, powerful military. Oh, that's a sign of how weak we are, guys.
Well, people. So, at the one hand, they are undertaking very unprofessional and dangerous and provocative and aggressive activities in the South China Sea. At the same time, they're deploying a very powerful naval task force close to Australia and now conducting live fire exercises. This is all about signalling. This is not just a naval operation per se to train the Chinese Navy. This is about signalling to us China's intent to be the dominant actor in our region.
These close calls considered deliberate and calculated shows of force from an increasingly arrogant Beijing.
They are practicing and rehearsing, and they are collecting.
What do you think they're rehearsing for? Land strike missions against Australian infrastructure and bases. We should be worried about the long-term implications of what's going on.
The federal government believes China not only wants to show its military reach, but normalise its presence in the region. Others think there might be a more sinister intent.
At a pure safety level, we should be concerned. At a strategic level, we should also be concerned because this exercise is...
And this Aspie puppet is going to tell you, we need to buy some more, we need some tanks, we need to buy some more, like things that we will use in the Middle East, because that's more important than protecting you, obviously. So you give more power to this guy, you're like, oh, well, Aspie, what do we need to buy? Oh, well, you need to buy shit to send to the Middle East because we have a war over there. It's more important than you. That's the reality of it. And all the while, the standard of living of the average Australian is weakening. All investors know that Australia's weak, because they put their money where their money matters. They need real information. The average Australian has no idea. And Australia is set to become Venezuela by 2034. Look at the banner of the channel. The banner of this channel was placed there in 2018, by the way. It wasn't placed there yesterday.
Deployment is not just normal. This is about strategic signalling from Beijing to Canberra, saying to us that China can project its maritime power and its naval capabilities whenever it wants, wherever it wants. It can do whatever it wants.
Raising serious questions about Australia's readiness to respond to a military threat.
For about 10 years now. For about 10 years now, it's been in every government document of both sides of government that Australia's distance and location no longer protects us from military threat. These warships turning up close to Sydney Harbour and then taking their time to go around the entire country.
So let me explain what happened here. Now we got the map up. The Australian military had no idea that they were off the coast of Sydney until they started firing. Just so you guys understand what really happened here. They had no idea that these ships were off the coast of Australia at all. They had no idea. No idea. Until the 19th of February. They had no idea, guys. It's like the Australian military was just caught off guard. And so they've been, let me explain this in the most logical terms possible. They've been sending ships to circumnavigate Australia for at least the last decade, maybe 20 years, maybe more, okay? And the Australian military has never noticed them because they're far more sophisticated than us. They're able to know where we can see, what we can see, and how to just sail around us, which means that China has the capabilities of bringing their entire, what we get told all the time is China doesn't have a blue water navy. It's no big threat to us. They don't have a blue water. Well, their navy's able to hit Australia hardcore. Their ICBMs are able to fly over the top of Sydney and Melbourne. We're sitting ducks. I made a video a long time ago. It's still on this channel actually. How China has long-term plans to actually drop a nuclear weapon on Sydney. You guys see that video? I don't know. Well, anyway, you're watching one of Australia's most accurate geopolitical analysts here. There's very few videos from anybody disputing anything I have to say ever, because what happens is I call the shot, it happens. So what happened here? Okay, let me explain. They got the ships off the coast of Australia. Those ships were off the coast of Australia, and they knew that we had no idea that they were there. This time, they're like, oh my God, these people are so stupid. We're circumnavigating their country like once a week. Once every couple months, they're sending a new ship. And they're like, oh, we'll send more this time. We don't even know. They might have sent 20 ships once just to see how many they can get in. They might have had multiple campaigns circumnavigating Australia, and the Australian military had no idea. So what they decided to do was they got off the coast of Australia and said, "Oi, we're here, dummy." That's what really went on. The Australian military is so incompetent and unaware of what's going on off the coast of them that they had to actually do a live fire drill just to let the military know that they were there. Understand what I'm trying to explain to you guys, that they literally sat off the coast of Australia with some of the most sophisticated weapons, more sophisticated in some cases than what Australia has, and they offloaded everything. They just launched all of their missiles, and it wasn't because they needed to just launch it into the sea. They launched all those missiles to try and see if, like, they would, what they do is it's grey zone warfare. They sent submarines down. They're like, wow, we can legit put submarines into Sydney Harbour, and these dummy dum-dums have no idea. Let's see if we can get a... Imagine if late at night, the Chinese Navy was off the coast of Sydney, and then they put naval ships into Sydney Harbour and we didn't even notice. It's possible, guys. That's how incompetent. See, the Australian government is spending all of its time focusing on controlling white men and destroying our lives. We're so internal, turning into a dictatorship, that we're not able to look external. If Australian man goes, oh, this Chinese person is a spy, or this Israeli person is a spy from a foreign nation, we're the ones that get locked up. We're the ones that are getting told that we're racist. The government's focus is on us and squashing us, not protecting the nation. That's the real issue here. And so what they did was they decided, look, these guys just will never realize our capabilities. We want them to kind of know what's up and that we are superior to them. So they actually had to launch all of these missiles to let us know that we were there. It was sent to go, hey guys, we're here. And we've been here for years. And you guys are so incompetent, you have no idea that we're here. That's what really went on, okay? That's what really went on. The other aspect of it that you're not being told is that the weapons that they were using, these 3 ships. Now, I have heard on good information from someone who knows what they're talking about, that these 3 ships were so advanced that they had the capability, if these 3 ships went head-to-head with Australia's entire Navy, okay? Australia's entire Navy, not the United States Navy, which they don't use unless it's in United States interests. These 3 ships had the capabilities of taking out almost 50% or more of Australia's entire Navy. Australia's Navy, what we have right now. Just so you guys have an awareness of how incompetent and weak and pathetic and blind and useless we are. That's what happens when for 25, 30 years you spend all of your money, you send all of your money, you let all of the mining boom and all of that cash get funneled over to the Middle East. And then you allow your government to be corrupted and spend all of its time and money squashing your rights to facilitate the extraction of the mining wealth. And then every dummy dum-dum here goes, oh, Labor's better because Labor helps these people. Or no, Liberal's better because it's for small business. When really both sides of government are being controlled by the United States the entire time.
Shows that you don't have to have a long-range ballistic missile to approve the vulnerability of Australia's military bases, of Australia's critical infrastructure, power stations, and of all of our population centres. We have no capacity to protect critical civilian infrastructure like power and water supplies, and no potential to protect any Australian who isn't wearing a uniform. That's now unacceptable. We have a homeland defence problem.
We are worrying about AUKUS, we're worrying about submarines that are coming in 20 years' time, which are an absolute waste of money.
This piece of shit here, this is a classic, look at her face, she looks like a witch. I think she's evil. I think she's absolutely, I think she might have a mental problem. One of her children had like a crack or drug addiction. Of course her children have a drug addiction, because she's a fucking piece of shit. This is a politician. This is pure insane politician that's been put in power or has the ability to be put in power because she's irrational and crazy. Crazy people, crazy women are at the top of Australian politics. And this person will get media time in Australia to just rant about random things that don't make any sense because she's crazy. She's legitimately crazy. She came out and gave rants about how all of the people protesting the lockdowns at the Anzac Memorial in Melbourne should be locked up, bashed, locked up. They should be silenced. You know, this is the type of insane woman that is in power in Australia. They just put these crazy nut jobs in power. While the thing is, she is, because she's dumb. It's not her fault. She's crazy. She's dumb. She's stupid. She doesn't know anything. She's the type of person that was squashing the intelligent people that were pushing back when we wanted our freedoms during the lockdowns. The lockdowns were a geopolitical game, and she participated in that. Now she's like out here ranting. You're the problem, because the smart white Australian men that needed their freedoms during the lockdowns are the same white Australian men that aren't getting in positions of power like her. You know, she's squashing us, and then she's turning around and like, why is it not working? Why isn't everything working? Oh, and then she's great at finding someone to yell at and scream at, and she has zero solutions to anything because she's just not smart. I'd like to see what her IQ is. I'll be surprised if it's over 100. I'll be surprised if it's over 100. I'll be surprised if she knows anything about the world. I'd love to debate her about what happened during the lockdowns, but these fools don't do that. Authoritarians don't debate or discuss ideas. They just tell you what to do. And that's what this scumbag did during the lockdowns. She was happy when people were being bashed and forced to be injected and locked in their houses and having their businesses destroyed. And she's probably happy now that all the inflation's destroyed the country. Well, the wealth of us, and squeezed us. She participated in that. These are the fools. Why is 60 Minutes putting this nut job on there? It's just an example of why the country's falling apart.
And I don't understand why we don't have missiles all up the top and around Australia. So work that one out.
Adding to the...
Why should we have missiles? Why? She doesn't even know why. We need to at least know. We need to have some eyeballs on the sea first, dummy. You're just gonna have random missiles and just fire them off randomly and hope they hit something? This is an idiot.
Certainty is the return of Donald Trump and questions over the US commitment to the Indo-Pacific region.
There are experts this morning saying this is a test from China to kind of test the resolve of the Trump administration to see how assertive they're willing to be in a faraway land that doesn't really affect their domestic politics post their manoeuvring in Ukraine.
Well, we haven't seen Trump turn his mind to our part of the world yet. We already...
Well, anyway, I was planning on making I've made in the members group of this channel my I've done a little bit of analysis on what's happening in Ukraine and Russia and what's going on over in Israel. I make them periodically, but most Australians like yourself that are watching this, you can't do anything about that. You need to start worrying about yourself. You need to start worrying about your own family. You need to start worrying about what you're going to do moving forward. And the service that I provide here is I tell you in no uncertain terms exactly what's going on. And what just went on and what is now out in the open, I've been saying for years, but that's okay. You guys didn't know how good I was. Now you do know that what I've been saying all these years is happening. It's now time to move. Think about it. Make moves. If you own property, sell it. Get that cash. Try to figure out how to get out of Australia. Or at least plan. Try to get a new passport somewhere else. And that's why you get on a consulting call with myself. You join the members group. You become a member of this channel. And you send me a message. And I will come up. I've got plans. I've got ideas. We're going through those ideas in the members section. But understand that with all the new immigration that's happening in Australia, Medicare is going to start to get destroyed. All sorts of welfare is going to be destroyed as well because all the parasites that are arriving are a burden on everything. It's all going to go. So don't think, when things fall apart, I'll just rely on that. No. That's not how this is going to play out. You're going to be left on your own in the dust with no support. And you don't have any guns to protect yourself. And guns are not about just protecting yourself. Guns are about protecting what is yours. It's all been taken. The political system's been taken. Or the resources have been taken. It's all gone. Now they're inflating what is left. And now, to cover up the mess, they flood you with immigrants. Flooding you with immigrants is the last thing that they do before the end. Because the immigrants don't care. They're here to just scrap up what is left of the country. Okay? So I suggest you join as a member. You become a member. I've already left Australia. I'm not in Australia anymore, guys. Like, I put my money where my mouth is. I'm accurate for a reason. I can see where this is heading, and it's not going very well. It's not going very well. China literally puts ships off the coast of Australia, off the coast of Sydney, off the coast of our biggest city where all of the media is, our Reserve Bank of Australia, the Australian Stock Exchange, Martin Place, the Harbour Bridge, our iconic, all the iconic images of Australia, the Opera House, the Harbour Bridge, the Reserve Bank, everything is there. They put ships off the coast of Sydney and our military had no idea they were there. And then the Chinese were like, what? They don't know we're here? Let's just shoot some missiles and hope they notice we're here. So they started shooting missiles. And the only people who noticed that they were off the coast of Australia was a commercial flight going over the top of it. They're like, whoa, what is that? Bang, bang, bang. Oh, what's that over the radio? They're saying over the radio that they're doing some live fire drills. What's going on? The Chinese are like the Chinese are thinking, do we have to actually bomb them to let them know that we're here? Are they really that stupid? Well, the answer for you guys is we are that vulnerable. That vulnerable. It's like, look, if roles were reversed. Australia put some Navy ships off the coast of China, right? And China has no idea we're there. And we're like, they don't know we're here, guys. I guess we can probably go anywhere we want, and these dummy dum-dums would have no idea where we are or what we're doing. Maybe if we shoot some missiles and just unload all of our missiles, they'll notice we're here. And then like a commercial fisherman sees the missiles going off and they alert the Chinese government that Australian ships are off the coast of China. Wouldn't we just be like, whoa, China's pretty useless, aren't they? They got no capabilities. Like we could destroy their navy. We destroy them, right? Right? That's what just happened to Australia. But I've been saying it for many years. I'm fully aware that that's what's been happening and is going to continue happening into the future. The question for you guys is, what are you going to do? I suggest you become a member of this channel, where I talk about plans on how we can get out of this mess. And instead of trying to protect all of you guys with my analysis, which I've been doing for now a decade, talking about these topics, about these issues, what I'm going to do is try to protect one person at a time in the members section. I'll see you guys in the next one, hey?